friends. We are here today in Luke chapter 23. So sometimes when I read the Bible, I like to forget that I've already heard how this story ends. It's almost a shame. We live in this culture where we already know the ending to the story. It's almost like, I've actually never seen the movie The Sixth Sense, but when it first came out, everybody's like, there's a twist ending in that movie, and it will blow your mind. And I have been told the twist ending like 1,000 times. I won't tell you, but there's a twist ending. And from what I know, it ruins the whole movie if you know the ending. Same thing for Fight Club, I'll probably cut that out. But there's other movies like The Shawshank Redemption, where the ending is just so good that you wouldn't dare tell anybody, because you don't want them to miss the great feeling that you get from seeing a movie that has a really great ending. And part of what makes a great ending is if somebody can make you lose all hope. You think that this is going to happen, and you're like, okay, it's done. This cannot get better. And then what makes a good ending is when you think it's going to be this, and it's this. And that's the way the Bible is. And it's interesting, because before I knew anything about Jesus, I knew that he died and he rose again for me. I'm not ruining the ending here. But I would just love someday to be able to tell someone this story. Tell them the story without them knowing how it's going to end. And just to see their reaction of this story where this man just goes through life healing people and saving people and bringing us wisdom from heaven. And you're waiting for him to become the king. You're waiting for him to, destroy all of his enemies and rise up. And then here at the end, he's brought over to Pontius Pilate. And Pontius Pilate doesn't want to kill him. 3 times he's like, I'll punish him, I'll bring him back. I see nothing deserving death. He says it so many times. He absolutely didn't want to do it. But it's interesting that it says in this chapter that the elders and the chief priests, so they're saying, this man's telling us not to pay homage to Caesar. Which, as far as I know, Jesus never said that. But it's interesting because, the council, they don't want to pay homage to Caesar. They probably hate Caesar even more than Jesus. But they're like, oh, we're just trying to be good Romans. But this guy's keeping us from being good Romans because he doesn't want us to pay homage to Caesar. And so he's telling this to Pontius Pilate. They're putting this on him because they basically have nothing else. They're saying this guy's trying to rise up and take over power, which was against the law. But even Pontius Pilate says, this is a peaceful man. He's done nothing wrong. So he hands him over to Herod. And Herod is the king at the time. And Herod was interested in talking to Jesus. He wanted to see his signs and miracles. And Jesus really doesn't talk to him. And I think as kind of a mockery, he dresses him up in these fine clothes and he sends him back to Pontius Pilate. And it's said that they became friends that day, because before they weren't. So they bring him back to Pilate and they're saying, crucify him. Now it doesn't say this in this book, but it was custom at the time during the Passover that they would let someone free. And so that's why he's saying, hey, why don't I free Jesus here? And everybody's saying, no, we don't want you to free Jesus. We want you to free Barabbas. Anyways, they release Barabbas and Jesus is crucified. And what I think is probably the most interesting thing to me in this chapter is the thief on the cross. Now, the thief on the cross is interesting for a couple reasons. The main one, and maybe the most obvious one, is that this person did not live a good life. He was a thief on a cross. and yet, at the last moment, he looks at Jesus and he says, remember me when you come into your kingdom. And Jesus says, I will. Surely, you are going to be with me in paradise today. And that says so much about, your theology. It means that we do, we can go straight to heaven after we die. It means that we are present with the Lord. It means that we don't need to do any other things except for to believe in Jesus and to trust in him and to know that he is God and ask him to save us, and he will. So this is a very, very significant passage here. Maybe to me one of the most significant passages in the scriptures because it says so much. But what I realized this time that I've never really realized before is, how did the thief on the cross know that he was coming into his kingdom? Here, Jesus is dying on the cross just like them, and yet somehow this guy knows that he is the king of all creation. And he says, remember me when you come into your kingdom. I've never really thought about it before, but what a tremendous amount of spiritual sight that this thief has. He sees him and he knows it. He knows that somehow there's going to be something after this. Now, it's important to note that, a lot of Jews didn't believe in life after death. But this man knew that Jesus was coming into his kingdom, and he says, remember me. And Jesus says, you will be with me. So after that, Jesus dies. Now, if you're reading this for the first time, you must be thinking, this is the end? Like this is a true story and the man died. Now, we today, read stories of fantasy, or we'll watch superhero movies all the time. And so, the idea that the main character will die and then rise again is fairly common to us. But if I were to read a real story in a newspaper or in some biography and it says, and he died and they buried him, I would have been like, well, that's the end. What a horrible book. I would have been angry. It mentions that Joseph of Arimathea really believed in Jesus and he really loved Jesus and he didn't agree with what they did. And so he took his body, which I think was a pretty gutsy thing to do, and he buried him. So this Joseph of Arimathea, was a rich man with a tomb, and he was there, and he took Jesus and he buried him. I feel like that's a really great sign of faith as well. But Jesus is buried. It's the end of the book, except for we have another chapter. So hang around tomorrow and see how it all ends. That is Luke chapter 23. Have a great day.